Nothing but jagged rocks and hardly any trees or grass anywhere. And dolls all over the place. I don't think the old me would have lasted even a single day out here. But here I am, with the two of you, somehow. I guess that means I've gotten a little stronger, right? Really? That means a lot, coming from you. You know, lately, I've been reading Manon's journal a lot. Especially everything she's written about enemies. She writes about stuff like how each enemy behaves, and when they're vulnerable to attack. In the past, I would just sort of skim and get the general idea. But now I really drill down on it and try to find ways to put it into practice. And by doing that, I've kind of come to understand some things. Like about what Manon would do in various situations. I kind of see which scenarios she might have problems with. And I find myself thinking, what would I do in that situation? So I feel like I'm finally starting to find my own fighting style. Yeah, I'm trying out lots of different stuff. I've learned that there's always more than one way of doing things. I wouldn't be where I am now without Manon. I hope I can repay her someday. And you too, of course. That's why I have to keep working hard to keep up with you two. Okay. Break time is over. I just thought of a new combat tactic. I can't wait to try it. Well, see you later. It's so hot. At least the heat in Ratem is dry. It's all sticky and yucky here. You always put on a brave face, but aren't you hot? Oh, okay. I guess you meteorm just to handle extreme temperatures well. I mean, it's nice that we get to travel to so many different places, but Glen and his troops have been living here a long time now. Of course, the dolls here are tough too, but the biggest battle is against the heat. Even after a tough fight, they can't even rest and recover when it's this hot all the time. It's really like they're just fighting non-stop. It'd be nice if they could at least take it easy while they're at the camp. I guess they probably don't need our help, but still. Do you think there's anything we can do for them? Something to lift their spirits. Like what? Oh, what about if I make some food for them again? Would that work? They're always eating that hard bread. But I'm sure they'd enjoy a good meal once in a while, too. Yeah, that might work. Thanks for the advice. I better start gathering up some ingredients then. Let's see. Last time, I made something hot because they were physically and mentally exhausted. But this time, I think something cool and refreshing is in order. I could probably put Kavera's fruits and vegetables to good use. I think I have an idea. Off to find ingredients.
Oh, it's you. Nope. Just out on patrol. There's nothing strange about a commander taking his turn at watch duty. Even if Kanui doesn't like it. Supplies have been getting through to us from Aelio a lot more easily. But we're still short-handed against all these enemies. The fatigue will start to build up. I figure if I've got the energy for it, it makes no sense for me to sit around in a chair all day. That's all there is to it. It's just what a commander does. Central didn't. Crawford didn't want me coming here, but I came anyway. The people at this camp are all here because they agree with my vision. I didn't even ask. They all volunteered. Quite a few of them. Even left behind family in Aelio. They threw away everything they had. Follow me on this crazy mission. I don't intend to just throw them away. They need to be well rested, to give everything they've got to fighting. It's really the least I can do for them. I rest when I can. Well, I need to get back to it. I still have a little way to patrol. I doubt we'll have any problem with the enemies around here. But don't get careless. Know when dolls might appear. I'm not interested in seeing your name on a memorial anytime soon. Yuha. Did you come all the way here by yourself? Pretty confident. Anyway, this place reminds me of the battle that day. What did Crawford come here for? He just showed up, wreaked havoc, and left. With who? I guess you mean me. You know, you throw me off my rhythm somehow. I can't figure you out. But it doesn't matter. I'll tell you about our past. Crawford and I, we used to fight together. But then, we had a falling out over something. Kanui already told you, right? Yeah. We decided to go our separate ways after Hibana died. Crawford stayed in Central, and I chose to come here to fight. We understood dividing our efforts like that wasn't exactly sustainable. But we couldn't stop each other. Just playing defense doesn't solve the problem. Not having anywhere to go home to after solving the problem makes no sense either. We had no choice but to do our best with the situation that we had. Troops, weapons, and other supplies. All just gradually dwindled. I really don't know where we'd be right now if you three hadn't shown up when you did. I'm sure Crawford and I will have a chance to hash it all out someday. But not right now. Because our battle still isn't completely over yet. That was long-winded. But I gotta get going.
It's you! I heard the news. You went to Stia. I hear it's a really severe place. They say it's just endless fighting with hordes of dolls under a sunless sky. Well, you don't look any worse for wear, but what about the other two? What? Is everything okay? Well, I'm glad to hear that. I was worried because I hadn't heard anything for a while. I'm just happy to see that you seem to be doing fine. If you ever need anything, you can count on us. I told you, right? We'll support you in any way we can. That's right. We'll come running. Although, depending on the timing, it might not be all 5 of us. Oh, by the way, I wanted to tell you about what's been going on here. According to Ilma, he's been making progress on his investigation of Lost Central. And Aelio Ark's defenders are really pitching in, too. I also hear that Ark's defenders from Retem are showing their faces lately.
And not just to fight. They're helping out with research as well. Grandpa used to always say Retem Ark's defenders only care about fighting prowess. But I guess things have changed a lot since then. Ilma is in Grandpa's study, organizing the data found at the site. He is thoroughly checking the data that Grandpa left for us. But there haven't been any more messages from Grandpa since that one time. We were hoping we might be able to find more clues in Lost Central, but... You're right. We can't give up hope. We'll just keep going, slow and steady. With both Kavaris' renewal and looking for Grandpa's clues. I'll contact you if we discover anything. We might even need to ask for your help. Of course, there would be something in it for you too. Take care!
Huh? Oh, it's you. I thought you were an enemy. I've already caused everyone quite a bit of trouble by being careless around enemies. Everyone is working so hard, and I'm just off searching for shiny minerals. But enough about that, I guess. No, just clearing my head a little. Being cooped up inside all the time makes my brain start to feel sluggish. I've been thinking about Central Canon a lot lately. We modified Aelio's Central Canon based on the Lost Central Canon data that we found. They share some uncanny similarities. Their photon generator values and their capacitor unit photon charge rates, for example. I mean, the specs are pretty different, but the basic construction is the same. That's why the Lost Central Canon data helped us fix our problems with the Aelio Canon. Which means these central cannons were designed with some level of mass producibility in mind. Lost Central and Central City share a lot of similarities to begin with, both aesthetically and in terms of city design. Basically, Central City was built using Lost Central as a template. So it makes sense that they're similar, but that template wasn't designed by us. We just repurposed what was already there to use as Central City's infrastructure. All we really did was gather materials and build on top of the template that someone else created. You know, a huge container was found underneath Retem City the other day. Know what was in there? Central Canon parts. And they were nearly identical to the Aelio and Kavaris Canon parts. I mean, you see how Retem City is now, but I can't help but wonder if the original plan was to make it like Central City. No, I don't mean that. I mean someone other than the current inhabitants of Halpha. Someone who simply vanished, leaving massive structures all over Halpha. There's no doubt that these mysterious people existed, but we haven't been in a place to explore that mystery until now. With this new discovery, though, I think the time has come to get serious about figuring it out. What were they doing here on Alpha? And what happened to them? I have the feeling that we will need to know that information going forward. There's no guarantee that something worse than Dark Falls won't show up in the future. We need to know as much as we can in order to handle a wide range of possibilities. That's what I think. Oh, I'm sorry. There I go again on another one of my monologues. Once I get some things figured out, I'll try to explain a little more clearly. Well, the first thing to do is to try to find some leads. I'll be working on this together with Crawford and the Alio research team. I'd like to include Ritem as well. Talking to you always helps clear my head for some reason. Thank you so much for listening. Time to head back to the lodge and start putting some ideas on paper. Take care.
It's you. I have heard of your deeds throughout the land. You've even taken the fight to Stia. No need to be humble. It's clear to everyone that your abilities are exceptional. So, is it true that several dolls' facilities have been discovered in Stia? I hear that there is a plant among them that is quite similar to the lower level of Maquad, and that they found dolls' manufacturing equipment inside. I had presumed that dolls are born naturally, like other living organisms. I guess that is not the case. So someone created the dolls? Who? When and why? I have so many questions, but I am a warrior, not a researcher. I'll leave that to Crawford. I've given the order for Ritem Arcs to prepare for a new battle. Our wounds from the battle with Renus Ritem have healed, and we are reorganizing our forces. We cannot simply maintain a defensive posture in the face of this new unknown. We will mobilize for war. We must also consider how to coordinate with Kvaris and Stia, in addition to Alio. It is amazing what they are doing in Kvaris with so few people. People's thinking is beginning to change here lately. We may be able to join forces with those who think differently, while still honoring our treasured Ritem traditions. We must not fear the change that will inevitably come with that. We must welcome any and all talent without prejudice. I've learned through my own experience that this is necessary in order to deal with so many threats. We still have many battles ahead of us. If we want peace, it is the only way. I hope you will continue to fight by our side.
I didn't know you were back in Alio. I hear you completed your assignment in Stia. They are the best of the best, but the numbers were not on their side. I'm sure your support was a huge help in that regard. It certainly was something to see Crawford act so decisively like that. Neil's Stia was Crawford and Glen's most hated enemy. At first, Crawford said he would let Glen handle it. But the truth is that he really wanted to settle that old score by Glen's side. Fortunately, Dahl's activity in Alio at the time was minimal. It was an opportunity that might have never come again. That's why I didn't hesitate to give my blessing to his decision. I'm glad the three of them were finally able to close that chapter of their battle. Crawford, Glen, and Hibana. So, you knew about Hibana. Hibana and Glen were close for a long time. She was always the type who wore her heart right on her sleeve. I'm not saying they were the same, but her straightforwardness was a lot like Aina's. When Glen and Hibana met Crawford, the three of them started working together. Crawford and Glen's relationship is still more or less the same as it always was. They've always gotten into it over differences of opinion. And it was always Hibana who would step in to mediate things. She had a knack for finding the compromise and getting them to shake on it. And she was really intuitive. She would just sort of throw a plan together and somehow, it almost always worked out. Which is the exact opposite of Crawford's unrelenting rationality, of course. Yet, they always seemed to get along. All three of them had very different personalities, but they just seemed to mesh with each other. Their teamwork in battle was especially impressive. Glen would take the front, Crawford brought up the rear, and Hibana would float between them. And the three of them would just chew through the toughest dolls like that. It was a foregone conclusion that those three would one day lead Alio. But then, Hibana's death created a big void. Without her, Crawford and Glen set off on separate paths that they each thought was best. Now that the score's been settled with Neil's Stia, hopefully, that void can finally be filled. Looks like there's some trouble. I think I better get going. We'll finish this chat some other time. Until then.
Oh, hey. it's you. How perfect. We were just looking for you. Correct. We're here seeking treatment for the wounded, as well as looking to resupply. Once we complete that, we have but to await their recovery. Wasn't there something you wished to discuss, Commander?
Yeah, there was. You, really helped us out the other day.
Wasn't there more?
We've had a lot of ups and downs during this campaign. We found ourselves constantly wounded and lacking supplies. Even after years of fighting, we hadn't made it to the interior of Stia. Before you three arrived, I was even considering withdrawing from the region. But my troops' morale was still high. I planned on one last offensive before they finally burned out. And then, you three showed up. I had heard rumors. You saved Retem, and even survived a Dark Falls attack. Then, you even paved the way for the reconstruction of Kavaris. I was skeptical, but I didn't have any other options. So I figured I'd try my luck with the three of you. And, we all know how that turned out. Although the battle still isn't over, I need to say this. Thank you.
Yes, I owe you my thanks as well.
Yes. We haven't secured the entire Stia region yet. And the Dolls plant is still operational. We still have a lot of work to do. Kanui.
Sir.
I'm going to head back now. You oversee the treatment of our wounded. Meet me there.
Yes, sir. Shocking. The commander almost never gives thanks to anyone. He does express gratitude sometimes, but I don't think I've ever heard him actually say the words, thank you. I suppose that demonstrates how much respect he has for you. Well, I'd better get going now. Let's meet again, soon. I didn't know you were here. There are far fewer enemies here now, but we still need to patrol the area. Do you happen to have a moment? Thank you. I have a question. It's in regards to Commander Glen. In all honesty, what is your impression of him? I see. So he does give that impression. He is a man of few words, and that can often be misinterpreted. It can be even more pronounced when he's focused on an operation. But the truth is that he takes very good care of those under his command. He always takes point in enemy territory. And he stays behind to guard our retreat. He says it's the best way to reduce casualties. That's the reason why his troops trust him implicitly. And that deep trust is what allows us all to put our lives on the line for the mission. However, I confess that there are times I wish he was a little more approachable. Especially when he meets new people. A member of the Alio supply unit once shared her impression of the commander with me. She was afraid that she might not make it out in one piece if she were ever to upset him. She was always easygoing with everyone else, yet strangely stiff around the commander. I did think it was strange. But I'm glad it was cleared up before it caused a problem. I believe her name is Citri. If, by some chance, you happen to know her, please reassure her. The commander is not actually scary. He simply looks stern and doesn't speak much. You're one of the very few Ark's defenders that Commander Glen trusts. I truly hope you'll continue to be someone he can count on. Thanks for everything. Oh, I didn't know you were there. I just remembered something I wanted to discuss with you. Tell me, what were your thoughts the first time you saw all of this? I see. At Maquad in Reten, correct? You know, Glen's scout team was the first to discover this place. I was a part of that team. Dolls do not only come from above, they're also produced somewhere on Halpha. That's what Hibana said. But I never thought that it would look like this. The commander originally formed the scout team to capture this place as soon as possible. Incidentally, what did Crawford have to say about this place before you came here? Oh, I see. Even I was surprised to receive such a sudden call. Well, unfortunately, as I'm sure you can tell, we've hardly even begun to start researching this place. But we do know that this is an energy plant. We know the plant's core system and the doll's production line are in fact linked. And that this plant's energy is distributed throughout all of Halpha. We also know that simply destroying this production line could affect the entire system. And that's about it. We intend to research and carefully analyze the system's configuration, and then shut the production line down gradually. Well, that is our plan. It looks like the tech team on assignment here from Alio can finally get to work on everything. At first, we thought that simply destroying anything in sight would take care of it all. But it turns out it's not that easy. So, for the time being, we have to wait before we can declare total victory in this region. We sincerely appreciate your continued support until that day comes. Thanks for everything. Oh, hello there. Well, what brings you here? Thank you for assisting us in our asymmetrical warfare efforts. We can't possibly cover all of Stia with the meager numbers that we have. In fact, there are two powerful enemies in particular that haunt this area. They would be quite a handful for an inexperienced defender. But all these massive structures being underground like this, it's incredible. No. I honestly had no idea until Crawford finally shared the information. This place was the final objective of our overall strategy, much like yours, I imagine. But the ultimate goal was always to defeat the dolls. We expected powerful enemies, but nothing could have prepared us for encountering Darkfalls. I shudder to think what might have happened if we had gone in there without you three. Oh, that's right. I forgot to mention something. It turns out the research team found Darkfalls' data in the nerve center control room. According to their report, Dark Falls had been collecting records of battles all over Halpha. If so, that of course begs the question of whose orders? We don't know for certain. But we do know that Dark Falls was studying Ark's combat strategies and tactics. It would have been even more fearsome had we not intervened when we did. I suppose we should be grateful that we were able to act before it was too late. Crawford has been apprised of all of this, of course. I have no doubt he will be able to find a solution. It may take a while. In the meantime, we will continue our research here as well. My apologies. I've gone on long enough. I must return to my duties. Well, good luck to you.
Oh, I didn't know you were here. No, I was just looking around. It looks like the Ark's defenders here are busy, as usual. At least their staffing and supply situation seem to be a little better. But now that they're operating deep within Stia, I'm sure their responsibilities have increased. And yet, I haven't heard a single complaint from anyone. Each and every one of them has an important role to play, and that keeps their spirits up. I've seen all of this somewhere before. It's definitely true that Ark's defenders in every region work hard. But the defenders in Alien Town stand out in my mind the most. Alien Town used to handle the defense of all outlying areas by itself. It was responsible for the entire area on the other side of the mountain from Central City. And, as you know, they did it all with very few Ark's defenders. It was hard enough just to patrol that area, let alone maintain equipment and prepare food. They gave it their all every day. And on top of that, they never knew when dolls might attack. Sometimes they would be up all night defending against a sudden assault. And yet none of them ever complained or felt sorry for themselves. In fact, it seemed like they enjoyed life to the fullest. I didn't realize it at the time, but they were all so focused on playing their respective parts. And that's why they were able to give their all to everything they did. They never lost sight of their dream for a peaceful world. Now we're the ones who have to carry that torch. And I was reminded of that responsibility just now while looking at the Stia camp. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go on for so long. So much has happened. Sometimes I overthink everything. What we've been through. What we will go through. I still need to process all these feelings. I'll see you later. Who's there? Oh, it's you. No. You know, I'm reminded of it every time I come here. That battle with Neil's Stia. And I think of that Ark's defender who sacrificed his life. Protecting someone like me, it's not fair. But he had his own life, too. His own dreams, his own hopes, just like all of us. And I took all of that away from him, forever.
Excuse me. I can't get behind that line of thinking.
Kanui?
Forgive me. I overheard you talking. Will you allow me to explain some things about us? We have a simple rule. Never leave anyone behind. In battle, it's not the enemy that you need to fear the most. It's the loss of trust between squad mates. It's having to wonder if you'll be left behind if you get cut off or wounded in battle. That kind of fear will hang over your head. This rule of ours is meant to eliminate that fear. We all know that we've got each other's backs, and that allows us to perform our duties free from worry. The defender who died protecting you was only following that rule. He refused to leave you behind. Because of that, more lives would be saved as a result. I'm sure that's what he believed. And that is indeed how things turned out.
That's only because I was overcome by rage.
What counts in battle is the result. Protocol is important too, but how many enemies we kill and how many of us survive, that's what really counts at the end of the day. If our losses are heavy, it's Commander Glen who shoulders that responsibility. And me, as adjutant. So, he was only doing his duty. That's why I want you to hold your head up. Please.
Kanui.
I have nothing more to say on the matter.
Thank you.
I hope this was not presumptuous of me. Now, I must return to my duties.
Working through my feelings is not an easy task, but Kanui is right. I need to hold my head up so I can move forward. I have to carry the torch. For the Ark's defender who gave his life for me, too.